Hi everyone, Sydney Rock again here to give you another video on negotiation. Now, I want to go over the two main types of negotiations. In Herb Cohen's book, You Can Negotiate Anything, he talks about two main kinds of negotiation. They're kind of obvious actually. One of them is win-win, the other is win-lose. Now, I would, over the months I've come to see that when a win-win isn't possible, because not both parties won't always agree on a solution that'll make everyone really happy. Sometimes concessions have to be made and whatnot, and this has led to what I call big win, little win negotiations. Now, what I really find useful, I'm going to go in a moment, I'm going to go over a quick list of how you can recognize that your opponent is going for a win-lose negotiation. And it's actually really simple to tell. Basically, it's all about whether or not both parties are coming in good faith or not. So it's kind of easy to tell intuitively, but I really like this list that he goes into in his chapter on what he calls Soviet-style negotiations, because apparently the Russians back in the USSR days were really big on these kinds of tactics. But basically, the list of win-lose negotiations, or the checklist of things and tactics that are used during a win-lose negotiation, or at least when someone is going for that, is first of all, they'll have an extreme initial position. They'll have limited authority, and I'll get back to that in a second. They use emotional tactics like getting angry, trying to get you angry, that kind of thing. The adversary's concessions are viewed as weakness, and they're very stingy on their own concessions. And finally, they ignore deadlines. Now, ignoring deadlines is it's a phenomenon. It all comes back to time. As I mentioned in, I believe, my first or second video, a priori, all things considered, the negotiator with the longest deadline wins. So I think something that the Soviets would do, I don't want to say Russians because, I don't want to, anyway, something that they did back in the time was they would actually, when he calls ignoring deadlines, they'd actually use false deadlines. Say, okay, I have to be done by this week, and their real deadline was like 2 months from now. So when both parties are negotiating and they think they have to be done by the end of this week, well, come Friday, the Russians are all like, whatever, and everyone's like, anyway, you get the idea. Now, obviously win-win. Actually, there's another list that I prepared here. Basically, it's all about coming together with the other party to use the process to meet your needs and to make sure again that everyone walks away happy, really satisfied with the negotiation. And when both parties are in good faith, you can use the negotiation process to really reconcile needs and maybe come up with creative solutions that neither party thought was even possible in the first place. So something that's really important to ensure a win-win negotiation, or at least on your part, because ultimately you can never control what the other person is doing, is to build trust. And once you've established that trust, and I might get into that, how to do that in future videos, it's a question of gaining commitment, so that when you've come up with a solution, it ensures that the other party will actually do it. So basically, something that I also wanted to get into is my favorite topic in the win-lose negotiation list that I went over earlier. And this is actually a tactic that I use when I know that a win-win isn't really going to be possible. Like in a sales negotiation, something that often happens is the client and the vendor, they're not always going to agree on price. So when that happens, then it's time to see who gets the big W and who gets the little W. Obviously, you want the client there to spend their money in your store or with your product or whatever. When you know that a true win-win won't be possible, hopefully it won't be about price, but when you know it won't be possible, you want to make sure that you end up with a big W. Or, depending on what your relationship with the client is, you might choose to fall on your sword and give them the big W and settle for the little w. But it's important to have a way to control that on your end. So something that I like doing is to use the limited authority. Like when you're trying to haggle over price, you say, well, I'm really sorry, I'd love to go down a little more, but I just can't. Or I'd really like to throw in this goodie, but I can't. There's a surprising amount of power that can come with saying that you don't have power. And it's kind of paradoxical, but I've seen that time and time again, whether I'm going for the big W or whether I'm trying to navigate the client towards a true win-win and not succeeding and saying, okay, finally at the last second I give the big W to the client. The power of saying I can't do it is very, very effective. And when you're coming in good faith and you're not using the other things like using emotional tactics and seeing concessions on the end of the client as weakness and that kind of thing, it can create a surprisingly satisfying interaction. So basically what I wanted to say is another thing that I love about the limited authority tactic is that when you know that the other party is going for win-lose, you can kind of use that same tactic to one-up them and use that tactic to try to limit the potential damage that they're trying to do in the situation. So basically I would really hope that you're going for the win-win as much as possible. I think that that's the healthy thing. That's what's going to guarantee the success of your business in the long term. But it's also helpful to know how to deal with people who are using the win-lose so that you can, at least try to take the big W for yourself, or try to give them the big W, or just kick them out of your store, or just put an end to the transaction right there. So that'll be it for today. I thank you again for taking the time to listen to this video. I invite you to share it with your friends, subscribe to my channel. You can also find a link at the below this video where you can get more information on negotiation. So thank you very much. Sidney Rock here again, signing out, and I'll see you soon.